So Georgia beat Georgia Tech on Friday night in 8 overtimes. Who is Georgia? Do you know? Because if you do, I'd love to know. We're going to give you our 2 cents right now. This is this is madness. It has been madness the entirety of the 2024 season across the college football landscape. Georgia might be the best microcosm of that madness. We'll talk about it right now. Make sure you're dialed in, because if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan now, you got a big one next Saturday, SEC title game. For all the madness, you still have a chance to win the conference, have a bye in the first round of the college football playoff if you beat Texas in Atlanta. Now, we'll give you our pick in that game on Tuesday, so make sure you're subscribed. Get at me on the socials, though. Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKell. Want to hear from y'all there. So here's where I fall with Georgia. Their roster, raw ingredients, names on paper, I believe, is still good enough to win a national championship. The machine still has the pieces to get revved up, go on a tear, and win the whole darn thing. You push back and say, JD, but Ohio State, the team that just lost to Michigan yesterday at home, that Ohio State? But Oregon, they're awesome. They also beat Ohio State, that same Ohio State team we just talked about, by 1 point, and Oregon didn't look all that impressive against Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. What I'm trying to say here is, in the 2024 season, everyone's human. Nobody's blood is pumping with platinum or some kind of extra special juice that makes them undefeatable. Nobody has that this year. So in that context, now, if you're Georgia, again, what I just said is how I feel. The roster, I think, is still machine-like to where you could win a national championship if that switch is on. Major if. Very major if. Because we've seen the switch be on against Texas, seen the switch be on against Tennessee. The switch has been on against Georgia Tech. Switch was very much so out of commission, like a McDonald's ice cream machine. It was not working, all right, against Ole Miss. It was not working from what I could tell when they were going against Alabama in that first half. They've honestly looked pretty lackluster at different points throughout the season against opponents they have no business looking lackluster against. So where do you fall with that? Like, what do you do with the machine that only works a certain percentage of the time? The thing that I have an issue with is when we talk about Georgia in the context of the college football playoff, my take for the better part of the entire season and going into even before this season was get Kirby smart in a playoff mode, and I'm taking the Dogs against everybody. Felt that way. Honestly, going into the game against Georgia Tech, still felt that way. But the tough part for me is you now have a one-game season every single week for, not even including the SEC championship game, 3, maybe 4 games. Is Georgia consistent enough at the places it matters to be able to get it done? That's the major question. Because when I look at this team, man, like I was talking with our guy Cato, who produces this show before we got rolling, like, what's your calling card if you're Georgia? Like we look at previous national title teams for Georgia, and they've had the psychopath mentality. They have a letdown, or maybe they don't have a letdown, but if they did have a letdown, they'd kick your teeth in the next week. They were explosive offensively. They had answers on the perimeter. They were a bully of a defense. Like, what to me, if I'm a Georgia fan, am I hanging my hat on? Carson Beck? He's been great at different points this year. I believe he also is near the top of the SEC when it comes to interceptions. Been better as of late, but like, is Carson Beck really, as of right now, is he really the reason why you're winning a national championship? He could be. Again, they could reset. They could have a chance to win the SEC. They hit the reset after a couple of weeks of rest, and they're a whole different team. That's definitely possible. But if we're going off of what we've seen, which I think is probably where we should land right now with Georgia, what are you pointing to that says that's why we win the national championship? So I just said a bunch of things as to why you should be pessimistic as a Georgia fan. Let me also add in this. You're winning. It hasn't been pretty. In fact, at times during that Georgia Tech game, you probably got sick a little bit, probably lost your appetite for Thanksgiving. The leftovers, that is. You're still winning. Still have a chance to go win the SEC in Atlanta. Still have a chance to get a bye in the first round of the college football playoff, chance to win a national championship. You're still right there. And so the thing that's most curious to me now, depending on what happens with Clemson and SMU in the ACC title game next weekend, there's a very real chance that you go into the college football playoff with the only coach in the whole 12-team bracket that has won a national championship, with guys on your roster that has won a national championship, guys that understand what it takes to play at that level. I wonder if that pedigree is the difference. Because I think when you look at what Kirby Smart has done this year, man, this is his best coaching job, I think, since he's been at Georgia, based on what they have on this roster, based on maybe the holes in this roster more specifically. I don't think that's a stretch to say. And so as we mentioned his best coaching job, who's to say there's not more in the bag there? Who's to say that this Georgia team doesn't catch their momentum at the right time and go on a run and do something special? So the Georgia Tech game, like I said, it's tough to unpack in its entirety because one part of me is like, yeah, that's really bad the way you played in the first half. I also appreciate the horsepower to come back from 17 down. I also appreciate the resilience and the timeliness to win a game in 8 overtimes where we're essentially trading penalty kicks and 2-point conversions. Like, that also has to mean something to you. So also the fact that it's a rivalry game, you got to, probably water down your logic you bring into that matchup a little bit when it comes to, breaking down the X's and O's. Weird things happen in rivalry games. All I'll say is, are they a new team when they get to the college football playoff? Because I think that's possible. So what do you make of Georgia? Again, to recap it here for us, super talented team, national title on paper. Are they going to be consistent enough? Are they going to be a new team when it's win or go home, as we've seen them in different points this year, post Ole Miss and post Alabama in some respects, shot out of a cannon? Are they that team going forward? I'm curious to hear your thoughts here, because Georgia has been a difficult team to get a gauge for this year, but we're going to learn a lot about them, I think, in this rematch against Texas. We'll give you our pick on Tuesday. Make sure you're locked in. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all, man. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.